out. Okay, it lets me. All right.
All right, cool. So I just have.
Okay.
I was like, if I don't get nothing to eat, I'm gonna be on this phone call cranky and irritable.
Yeah.
And answering in 2-word sentences. So I said, you should probably get some protein and some.
It's overrated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the glasses glare an issue or is it okay? Do I need to go put on some contacts real quick or is it cool?
It's good.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna put the flyer up right now.
Yeah, that's what's going.
Our cameras, all our cameras should be off at this point, correct?
Yeah, in about 4 minutes, all our cameras should be off.
Oh, all right.
Do you guys have any questions before we start? Does anyone have any questions?
Is there anything, any last minute things we need to know before we get started?
I don't think so. Caraballo,
I just want to say, tell everybody get as close to their microphones as possible and try to stay center in your camera.
Can you hear me okay? I went ahead and put on AirPods so that the audio wouldn't be a problem. So I figured that might be easier.
You know how to test your mic, right? Right after
Yes.
you mute, do your audio settings and do a mic.
Yep. And it looks like I have pretty good audio according to my Zoom microphone test. You guys all see the flyer, right? Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank
Nice.
you.
you guys look good. All right.
Yeah, I did the same thing and put in my AirPods. How's my sound? Is it better?
It's good.
Ben, do you have any AirPods?
No.
Oh,
I have-
remind me to order you some.
No, I have them. I have a brand new mic, and I have the computer mic or the laptop mic, and I'm sitting very close to it. You can hear
I
me.
think it might be all your natural vibrato.
My natural bravado. Okay.
Vibrato, not bravado. It's okay. It's a singer term. All right.
Okay. Ah! Okay. You guys ready to start? I'm muted.
We're ready to start. I'm ready to start. I think
Okay.
they're
Starting webinar in 60 seconds.
We should all have our cameras off, correct?
Yes, and
one question for Rosalind. Rosalind, and
Yes.
I'd ask you guys, the Paul Robeson players, are they active now?
no, they're not.
They haven't been active for years, right?
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Cle probably knows exactly when.
You know that, Cleve? They haven't been active for years then, huh?
To my knowledge, they've been going for a while.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
quote me.
Oh, okay.
Jackie and Rosalind, you're both on speaker view, right? Speaker view, hide self. Okay.
Side by side speaker or standard?
Oh, so they don't understand.
Marva, side by side speaker or standard?
You know, Jermaine likes it when he can get both, but I'm not sure. Maybe side by side. What do you think?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. See you guys in there.
How long before we begin? 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
You keep taking me higher and higher, yeah. Don't you know that the devil is a liar? I know they'd rather see me down, put my soul in the fire, but we granny 88, she had my uncle and then a miscarriage back to back every year for like 10. Pregnant with my mom's, doctor told her it was slim. Was bed row for 9 months, but gave birth in the end. Pops turned 60, he proud what we done. In one generation, he came from Africa young. He said he met my mom's at the Century Club. Los Angeles love, kinda like Hustle and Bug. Money turned 10, Cross turned 2. Starting to see this life from a bird's view. We the ones that made millions off the curve. Fool in this rap 10, never made nerd moves. Hey, whoa. You keep taking me higher and higher. Yeah, Cali, but don't you know that the devil is a liar? I know, right back. They'd rather see me down, put my soul in the fire. But we keep going higher, higher. Yeah, talk to him. Emptied out the clip, it was broad day. Niggas always gotta learn the hard way. We gon' tape it off if we ball play. Put a half a moon crescent on your ball fade. Police hit the lights, that's a car chase. Looking back at my life, make my heart race. Dance with the devil and test all faith. I was thinking chess moves, but it was God grace. Crooked whoever till we all straight. With no shame, I peep game and it's all fake. South Central state of mind, high crime rate. Homicide, hate gang banging to get you all day. But look at my fate. It keep taking me higher and higher. Told Cali bounce the phone to the bar break. But don't you know that the devil is a liar? I know they'd rather see me down, put my soul in the fire. But we keep going higher, higher, higher. Oh Lord, can you feel it? My shoes is scraping the sky. I'm so high. We keep going higher.
It could be an extraordinary moment for certainly Robey Theater Company, but also other theater companies who now have another platform.
I'm founder of Sepia, an artist-led collective that produces art events, projects, and workshops that center artists of color. We began working on what is now the Compton Arts Project about 4 years ago. I'm so excited to have the Robey Theater Company as our theater arts partner in this venture. The Compton Arts Project is collaborative in its approach to centering arts and culture in the city of Compton.
Everything starts with the writer. We have no writers, we have no theater.
We hope to produce a project very soon.
Welcome, everybody, to the Compton Arts Project's Reading the City, Compton Unscripted. We're happy to have you here this evening. My name is Rosalind McGarry. I'm creative director of Sepia and Cake Cutter Institute, which is our nonprofit's partner. I'm joined today by Ben Guillory, actor, director, producer, and producing artistic director of the Robey Theater Company. The Robey Theater Company has partnered with us on the Compton Arts Project and is working with us to bring a strong theater presence back to Compton. We'd like to take this moment to honor the artists and cultural workers whose legacy make our work possible. They are Robert Browning and the Paul Robeson Players Theater Group, which operated and performed in Compton beginning over 50 years ago. The Reading the City series is a part of the Compton Arts Project, which organizes community through the arts and builds programming that highlights Compton's cultural impact while centering Compton and South LA artists of color. The series features conversations with artists of different disciplines with connections to Compton. Today we'll be discussing The Actor and specifically having a conversation with actors who have ties to Compton. For more information about the Compton Arts Project and the artists featured today, visit us on Instagram at Sepia Collective, at the Compton Arts Project, or on our website, sepiacollective.com. Throughout tonight's event, please feel free to type in any questions to be read during the Q&A session, and we will be answering them towards the end of the evening. This is a safe space for us to share with each other, so please keep that in mind when asking questions. Today, 3 dynamic actors have joined us: Shaunté Caraballo, Jacob Lusk, and Cle Sloan. It is my pleasure to introduce each of them, share some of their work, and then Ben will take over and moderate the conversation. In alphabetical order, I'd like to introduce actor and professor of theater, Shaunté Caraballo.
Grande latte, please. Thanks. Isn't it funny how signs are pointing you in a direction, maybe even in a life-changing direction? At Amridge University, I get all my courses online, enabling me to reach my educational goals. Flexibility built.
And all the men would respond, and she never turned them away. She wrapped them in blankets of her arms, and she loved them to the last drops of their masculinity oozed out as they slept like babes in swaddling clothes, dreaming of red bone Mississippi mud pies. She gently placed them on the porch just before the milkman had time to make his daily delivery. And then she rolled. She rolled on, cause my grandma was a rolling stone.
Get what I need and get home quickly, because that's really what it's about. It's spending time with my family, and I never have to wait for things to go on sale when I shop there. They don't just carry limited brands or store brands. They carry all the brands that we like. They have a full variety of fresh fruits and vegetables, and they're so friendly it feels like they know you. It's easy at Priceless Hygiene.
Simon Says! The game of Simon Says. You know how it goes.
When Simon says do an action, you do an action.
But you're only supposed to do an action if Simon Says.
Simon Says speak!
Now, why isn't everyone speaking? You chose to play this game. How dare you ruin it for everyone else?
Simon says you're not listening. If you don't listen, you'll never be successful.
Simon says shut up!
Simon says you tend to fall in line one after the other.
I said Simon Says! Simon Says you will refer to me as Officer Simon from here on in.
When you see on a lay by moonlight, you will be.
These arms have always been strong and have been tasked to carry the weight of my family's burdens from the time I was 5. And while I have dropped it many times, I have somehow managed to carry this load in its ever-increasing capacity, one step at a time, praying that each one gets me closer and closer to finally laying my burdens down. My legs, once long and lean in my youth, grew to tree stumps whose roots never let me forget the path to the women from which I come, whose sacrifices are the soil that fertilize the land upon which I walk, clearing the way for those who are behind.
Education for more than 20 years. Give your life direction and earn your degree.
Wonderful. Shaunté R. Caraballo is an actress, director, spoken word artist, hula dancer, and speechwriter. She is an assistant professor at CSU Dominguez Hills in the Department of Theater, Speech, and Dance, where she teaches in all 3 disciplines. She is the speech coordinator and the director of the speech and debate team. She is also the vice chair for Region 8's Kennedy Center American College Theater Arts Festival. She was fortunate enough to attend a performing arts elementary, middle, and high school as a theater major before attending college, where she double majored in speech and theater, winning 2 national speech titles. She is an accomplished actress with more than 25 years in the industry. Her most recent works include directing a devised work titled A Surge of Power at CSUDH, starring in Ending the Silence at Palomar College, A Journey to Mom at Inner City Arts, and Finding Hope at Teatro Dominguez. Ms. Caraballo is thrilled to be a part of the Compton Arts Project because she comes from generations of strong women from Compton and is committed to seeing future generations of strong women continue to come from Compton. Thank you, Shaunté, for joining us. Next, we have actor and singer Jacob Lusk.
Hey, everybody. But for Jacob Lusk, his moment on stage was an unexpected delight.
But God bless the child that's got his own. That's got his own. Money, you've got lots of friends crowding around. Don't come around no more. Mama may have, and my papa may have, but God bless the child that's got his own.
He was like, in case you had any doubt. Let me just show you something.
Making their U.S. TV debut with the song Love and Hate in a Different Time, Gabriels.
Walking down all around me, silently folded flames, catacombs, blocks of surrounding, catacombs, blocks of surrounding, even in the valley, around and stuff they comfort me, it's rushing through my veins, moving faster than a hurricane, moving faster than a hurricane. Lost in the fire, love and hate, lost in the fire. What I did to make you mine, what I did to make you
I think that's my new favorite song. Jacob Lusk. Jacob Lusk is an actor, vocalist, and lead singer of the group Gabriels. Raised in Compton, California, he burst onto the scene as a popular season 10 American Idol finalist. Randy Jackson called his performance of God Bless the Child the single best performance ever on American Idol. As an idol, he performed duets with Gladys Knight and Kirk Franklin. After reaching the top 5, Jacob exited with a stirring rendition of A House Is Not a Home, which critics rated his best performance. His acting and film credits include Love Chronicles, Secrets Revealed, and Head Shop. He's appeared in several stage plays and many television appearances. He recently performed with his fellow Gabriels band members, producers Ari Baluzian and Ryan Hope on the Jimmy Kimmel Live show. Gabriel's has just released their new music project, 4 years in the making, Love and Hate in a Different Time, which is incredible. Jacob was born in 1987 to Anglia and Gregory Lusk and is from Compton, California. His father was a music producer. Jacob began singing and acting when he was 4 years old and performed at his church from the age of 5. He served as minister of music at his church. In 2007, he joined a gospel group called Innate Praise, formed by the late hip-hop singer Nate Dogg, and he performed with the group at churches around Los Angeles County. We're happy to have you here, Jacob. Next is Cle Sloan, actor, activist, and filmmaker.
Jake, go ahead and bounce on me. Get up out of here. We got your back.
What?
Just like that.
Oh, no, you didn't. Wait a minute. No, you didn't. Hey, Jake! Hey! Jake! 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 Come back here! Jake! You disloyal, fool-ass, bitch-made punk. Jake! I need my money! Jake! Oh, you motherfuckers. Okay. All right. I'm putting cases on all you bitches. Huh? You think you can do this shit? Jake! You think you can do this to me? You motherfuckers will be playing basketball in Pelican Bay when I get finished with you. Shoe program, nigga. 23-hour lockdown. I'm the man up in this piece. You'll never see the light of day. Who the fuck you think you fucking with? I'm the police. I run shit here. You just live here. Yeah, that's right. You better walk away. Go on, walk away, because I'm going to burn this motherfucker down. King Kong ain't got shit on me.
Today, fuck y'all.
This can go one of several ways right now. It is all about your attitude.
Fuck you. I got my mail. I helped him. Give me my mail. And I'm getting tired of shit. On blood game, I'm not playing with y'all.
Sir, if you've been drinking, you need to stay the fuck inside and not intimidate the mailman. That's it.
Fuck you. You need to shut the fuck up. Because without that badge and gun, you ain't shit.
Yeah?
You're less than motherfucking nothing. You motherfucking border hopping, donkey riding, Mexican motherfucker. Fuck
Is that
you.
so? You want to find out what I'm about?
Show me.
You want to find out what I'm about?
Fuck.
Let's settle this right here like grown men, motherfucker.
See, not again, man.
What you say? You want to take a fade? You want to fight?
Yeah, I want to fight you. Let's go, bro.
I'll whoop your punk ass. You gonna get the fuck up out my crib?
Hell no. But you called me out, bro. Now I'm calling you out. What's up?
You whoop my ass, I'll put them motherfucking handcuffs on my motherfucking self. And that's on the set. Thor. It's gonna be a pleasure beating your bitch ass. It's my fucking fantasy.
Talking,
Who the fuck you think you fucking with? I would love this shit. To beat the motherfucking punk ass police ass
Keep
like
talking,
yours.
bro.
Get this shit popping, motherfucker.
This shit's crazy!
Fucking kick his ass. Come on, Z! Z! Yo, Z.
Now get the fuck up. You like that? Ain't no wrestling match.
You all right? Come on.
Oh, shit!
Come on, man.
Cle Sloan is an American director, actor, and activist from South Los Angeles. Acknowledged for his contributions towards inner city communities of Los Angeles, Sloan has appeared on programs The Oprah Winfrey Show, Larry King Live, and Anderson Cooper 360. In the early 1900s, football legend Jim Brown mentored Sloan as he transitioned from street life to film production. Sloan has worked with director Antoine Fuqua on two of Fuqua's hit movies, Training Day and Tears of the Sun. During the production of Training Day, Sloan worked as technical consultant and helped persuade gang members to lend their credibility to the project on screen. Sloan redefined the role of technical consultant, lending his particular talent to projects too numerous to name, which include the end Straight Outta Compton, where he worked closely with director F. Gary Gray and executive producer Dr. Dre. Sloan is credited for the authenticity achieved by the studio. Sloan has also directed and appears in the documentary film Bastards of the Party, which aired on HBO. The film examines 5 decades of gang violence in Southern California and explores many of the details that are often left out of the mainstream narrative regarding Black life. Sloan began speaking out against gang violence in various media outlets and through his nonprofit organization Active, which worked directly with active gang members to help them serve as positive members of their communities. Currently, he is directing a documentary about Compton, California titled Compton's Finest. Cle, we thank you for being here. It's truly a pleasure. And it's a pleasure welcoming all of you. We thank you again. I'm going to turn the conversation over to Ben Guillory so that actors can take center stage. Ben, the stage is yours.
All right. Thank you, Rosalind. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Reading the City and Compton Unscripted. And to our guests, Shaunté, Caraballo, Jacob Lusk, Cle Sloan. Appreciate you all. Come on camera, folks. Click on. Put your mics on as well. There you are. Hey, Jacob. How you doing? Cle, hey.
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Good.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
There you are, Shaunté. Hi. How are you?
Hello. Hello.
So, Gifted. A little bit about the Robey Theater Company before we start. The Robey, for those of you who don't know, Robey was Paul Robeson's nickname. And Paul Robeson is the inspiration for the Robey Theater Company. We're now going into our 27th year. We're downtown Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Theater Center. We've been there for about 17 years now. And Paul Robeson is the inspiration for the theater company that Danny Glover and I founded back in '94. Now, for those of you who don't know who Paul Robeson is, and it's hard pressed that a lot of people don't, even though at one time he was the most popular artist in the world, not the most popular Black artist, but the most popular artist in the world. But a series of events, he was blacklisted during the House Un-American Activities Committee, and that's a whole nother story. But Paul was truly a Renaissance man. He was an attorney when the American Bar Association did not allow Negroes into the American Bar Association. He was the valedictorian 1917, 1918, Rutgers University. He was one of the 2 artists that lifted what was then called darky spirituals into a place where it was taken as serious music. He was, of course, a stage actor. He did 14 films. He was the first Black actor to do Othello on Broadway. It still holds the record for the longest running Shakespearean performance in the history of Broadway theater, 298 performances. This brother was truly an incredible human being. More than anything else, he landed in a place where he was simply a humanitarian. He was clearly an activist. He spoke and sang in 20 languages. The world loved him because he literally spoke their language. He'd go to Italy and sing in Italian. He'd go to France singing French, Norway singing Norwegian, and on and on. So people loved him and they knew him. And his social consciousness is what drives the Robey Theater Company. And part of what we do is reach out into the various communities, Black communities, and hopefully begin relationships with artists such as yourselves. Here, an example of how he inspires the Robey Theater Company. Our next streaming event on September 5th is called A Difficult Discussion, and just really short, what it's about. Imagine this. 16 iconic Black figures have died, including Dr. King, Malcolm X, Zora Neale Hurston, Langston Hughes, Tupac Shakur, Bob Marley, and more. Nina, they have all been convened in another space after they've transitioned because of George Floyd, because that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And they have been convened to talk about what is happening on the planet and how that, and how they can affect some kind of change to better all of this. And it's called a heated, difficult discussion. And they all talk about it. Now, they're all after the same thing, equality and freedom for us. But of course, Malcolm and Martin, for instance, are two examples of going about it in two different ways. And that's what the play is about. We'll have a reading of it on September 5th. I hope you'll join us and sit in on it. But now, back to why we're here. Welcome, my sisters, my brothers. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. You know, I guess the proverbial question is how did your interest in acting begin? We'll start with ladies first. Shaunté, please, how did you begin? How did it all start for you? Where was your interest piqued? You're bitten by the bug? How did it all begin for you, dear?
You know, I would say that I think part of it is because I'm an Army brat. My mother was in the Army for 20 years. And so part of it was my kind of the sense of needing to belong. I moved to Jackson, Mississippi, of all places. And I just felt really out of place. And I had this opportunity to be a part of a performing arts school. And then we had auditions. And the theater spoke to me. I found a place where I felt that I could tell stories. And my family, my mom is number 7 of 12. My mother is born and raised in Compton. And my family tells stories very well. I think in a family that large, you learn to tell stories, and everybody tells stories very, very well. And so I come from a family of telling stories. And so my audition was telling stories. I told a poem and I told a story, and I felt very at home on that stage. And that's how I got started. I started by telling stories and weaving stories together. And I felt so at home on that stage in a community of storytellers. And I felt that way ever since, that being able to be on that stage in the community of people who tell stories, who are able to bring stories to life. I think as I've gotten older, I've learned more about what stories I want to tell. Mm-hmm. And as I've become an educator, and specifically an educator of students of color, I've become better about making sure that we tell our own stories and what stories we tell, and why we feel the need, that why we're taught to tell other people's stories, and why we don't feel as confident in telling our own stories. Mm-hmm. So, I've learned more about why I wanted so much to tell my family stories as a kid, and why throughout my theater education, I learned to tell other people's stories and didn't feel so confident in telling my own. But that was so much an impetus for me, so passionate for me to tell stories, and why I felt so excited to tell my family stories as a child.
Well started for you. Wonderful. Jacob, how about you?
There was, the LAPD actually had a program in the early 90s called the Jeopardy program. And I was actually taking Kung Fu at the time. And I guess they wanted to try this acting thing, I guess. And so they selected some of us in the karate class to take this acting class with this really big casting director. So I took the acting class, and there's this big thing at the end where you perform the scene. And I lost my mind. I was like, oh my God, I get to be different people. This is really cool. And my mother was not having it. She was like, oh no, we're not doing that. You're supposed to go to school. You're going to be my doctor or my lawyer. I'm not going to see you struggling out here in these acting streets. But in high school, I was actually one of the cams at Cal State Dominguez, and they had an acting thing that we did after school. And I did so well, they were like, your son needs to go to performing arts school. So I ended up going to a school. My mom still wasn't having it, but I snuck and I did Dreamgirls, a musical with adults. And I auditioned and they cast me. I lied about my age. Don't tell anybody. And long story short, I started sneaking off doing auditions. If kids are watching, please don't do that. And since then, it's been amazing to explore different parts of myself through different characters has been the most exciting thing I think I've ever done. And I'm thankful for it.
Yeah, it does give you a license to go different places, doesn't it? Cle, how about you, brother? How did that work for you?
Mine started basically from a kind of dark place. 92 Rebellion. Best 3 days of my life to this day. And after the rebellion, a lot of us were in jail, some of us were on the street. Through Jim Brown and his program, just a short version of it, I had the opportunity to become a production assistant, a PA. And this is how I started getting on movie sets, commercial sets, what have you, which I ended up segueing into going from behind the camera to in front of the camera, did a few commercials, a couple of Miller Draft commercials, kind of took off. And I never expected to have a job, let alone a career, from the trenches I was coming from, out of those streets. So I guess my trajectory was what they call the LA Riot, 92 Riot. I got an opportunity to be a production assistant. Then I got an opportunity to act. Then I got an opportunity to make films. And I thank God for it.
That's a great story, man. That's almost a kind of redemption, huh? A little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely redemption in the arts. You know what I mean? For me, it's definitely, I tell everybody, corny as it sounds, film definitely saved my life. You know, that's kind of hard to say.
That's not a corny one. That's not a corny one. I know a lot of artists, especially a lot of artists of color, that really getting connected with the performing arts in some way, shape, or form changed their lives. Yeah. We were on a different path. Some were on a not so healthy path, and being introduced to the arts where they could express themselves and tell those stories like you, Shaunté, and cultivate an artistic talent like you, Jacob, the singing. It was something that really made a significant life-changing experience difference in their lives. How did being in Compton, let's stick with you for a minute, Cle. How did being in Compton influence your artistic path, so to speak? Did you feel a camaraderie with other artists from Compton? I know you're doing film work, you're reaching out into the whole film community, but the Compton community, how did that affect it?
It went 360. Never dreamed that Compton would even be beneficial in my artistic journey. You know what I mean? Born and raised Compton, went to elementary school, went to junior high, went to, preschool. My juvenile structure was Compton. You know what I mean? And this was in the 80s and 90s when it was a really totally almost 90% Black community, which was beautiful. Then it had its own little problems, which every city had also. So full circle, most of the films that I'm hired for, that I'm in, represent streets with Compton, Watts, and Los Angeles. I've probably done 13, 14 films, and the main catalyst to all these films are the streets. And so I've come out of Compton, which was, you don't get no more streeters in Compton. And then so when these roles came up of being a street guy, or we want to shoot in some of these communities, my roots was deep in Compton. And so I was always pushed to the front of the pack of maybe performing as a guy from the streets, or producing, you know, in some of these marginalized communities. So Compton serves me well because everybody wants, especially now, because everybody wants to shoot in Compton. You know what I mean? Compton, to me, whole brand is in a shift, becoming like a Brooklyn, becoming like a Venice. I was in Paris. I can't count how many Compton hats I saw. I was in Switzerland. I can't tell you how many Compton t-shirts I saw. You know what I mean? So it's fun for me to watch to watch the brand of Compton, the community shifting into this artistic space and then into this, you know, political Black space. And you know, like I said, it's the biggest influence most of the biggest influence in the world coming out of Compton. You know, you can't doubt about it. Your Kendrick Lamar, your Dr. Dre, your Venus and Serena. So all of that texture served me well, especially as my film career took off and as my producing career took off.
Right, right. How about you, Jacob? This whole connection to Compton, they're influencing you.
It's really interesting. My mother put me in private school up until middle school. So middle school, I went to Roosevelt Middle School, and I did the same thing for high school. And then my senior year, my mom was like, "Nah, you going to Centennial, bruh. I'm not doing this anymore with you." But what's amazing
Your mom said you're going to where?
Centennial. I graduated from the 10, Big 10 for life.
Okay.
But my mom, my teachers I had in middle school taught my mother, and they taught my uncle. And my teachers were Black, and they looked like me, and they were from my community. So the level of education that I got was a little different. And my teachers actually cared about me in a way that I hadn't experienced in my private school settings and in my predominantly white school settings. At Roosevelt, there was not a acting program, but my history teacher, Miss Bolden, she said, well, we're gonna do programs for Black history and for Christmas. And so she would give me the space to create plays and act for the school. And so, but that happened because of that connection. In high school, my AP English teacher, rest her soul, her name is Miss Stevenson, she told me, you're gonna be like Paul Robeson, and you're gonna travel the world, and you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do that. I was not getting those type of affirmations outside of the city of Compton. I even take it to the streets, right? So now it's different now than where it was when I grew up. I'm 30 something, I'm not gonna say. And even the people in the hood, they were like, well, Jacob is a little different, so we're not gonna get him involved in this. It was almost like they protected me in a way from any of the other stuff that was happening. And it was beautiful to me. Like when I hit my grandma's street, it didn't matter what time of day it was, what time of night it was. I knew I was safe. I didn't feel strange. I didn't feel like anybody was gonna mess with me. And I was a geek, honestly. I was a square. I wore my shirt tucked in with my pants pulled up high. But the community surrounded me in a way that I don't think, and not to shade on anybody, but I don't think kids get now. And that it's something I felt that was very unique to the city of Compton, at least for me. And I'm thankful for it.
That's wonderful. That's a very, contrary to popular cliches about inner city life and specifically Compton, right? The whole idea of the community protecting you, knowing that you had a certain kind of specific gift and wanting to preserve that. That is not so much the usual story that you hear often about Compton. Usually you hear about the cliches, about just a negative aspect. So you're probably not that only person either. So
definitely not. I can tell you for sure, definitely not the only person. And it was, they're like, oh no, he's gonna be a geek. They used to call me Kirk Franklin and all, but it was love. It wasn't anything, you know what I mean? It was,
Shaunté, how about you? Compton.
Yeah, so I have an interesting story because my family is from here. My grandmother was the secretary at Willowbrook Middle School. My mother went to Centennial. She was a Cincinnati. And my mom's, like I mentioned, my mom was number 7 of 12, all from Compton. And so, but my mom was in the Army. So I was raised away and came back to be a part of the community. So I became a Girl Scout troop leader here, instantly became to serve in the community. And so I'm a professor. I'm literally down the street at Dominguez Hills. And so while this isn't in Compton, we right here. And so I came back to serve and be a part of the community because my family is here. Everybody's here. And so that's where my heart always has been. I've always been a part of this community because Compton is my home. My family is still here, even though I wasn't here, right? I was raised away because my mother was away. It was my childhood. So I've always been here serving and commuting. And part of the reason why I wanted to give and be a part of this is because the majority of my adult life, I served with my co-troop leader who literally just passed away a couple years ago. And we served and put so much of our heart into serving this community together that a big part of my art's heart was with the girls that we raised in this community that we kept serving with, that are now adults. We created, all kinds of arts with them, dance, theater, poetry, and raising these girls together, singing. Thank God they're better singers than I am, and creating work with them. So for me, it was through youth. I've always been an artist and doing my own work, but in Compton, it was raising these young girls. And so being able to do art with them and watching them develop as artists, which is a different kind of work for me, and developing young artists and seeing what they're creating, which for me, it was, I'm watching them do things that I would never have done, watching them create work that I would never have create, and be a part of a community. I'm sorry, what's that?
For instance, watching them doing work that you never would have done, creative aspects that you never would have done. Now this second generation or this next generation is doing that. What might that be?
Writing songs. I am not a songwriter. I don't write songs. I never have. And even from the time, one of the young girls that Shaunté was one of my favorite young ladies. Shaunté wrote the most wonderful music, and she just had the boldness to write music, even when it was terrible. From the time she and I started working together when she was 8. And I've always been very much a perfectionist with my art, and she didn't care. She just didn't care if it was good or bad. She would just write. She would just write stuff, and she'd say, Miss Shaunté, I wrote this song. And I'd say, okay, what is it, Shaunté? And she'd say, I wrote this song. And she'd come and play it for me and sing it for me and show me stuff. And I'd say, okay, Shaunté. And she's like, I'd say, all right, well, let's rewrite it. And she would say, well, I don't want to rewrite it. I think it's good the way it is. And I'd say, well, all right, well, let's try a rewrite. Let's redo it. And she'd say, no, I'm just going to write another one. And so it's just this kind of like bold
artist, isn't it? They said,
right,
he's going to mess with my art. I don't want to rewrite it. I wrote it this way. This is the way it's going to be. I don't want to put fingerprints all over it.
Exactly. And she didn't pursue art as a career, but it was one of those things that they, taught me. But they would do these beautiful songs and dances and things that I, type of music that I never listened to, things I wasn't into. I'm very much a different type of artist, but the connection they had to music, the connection they had to a community that I wasn't connected to really kept me connected to the community, was really my heart and soul. And when I got my position at Dominguez, it really just...
That's just such an important connection to the community, because that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
The Sepia and the Robey Theater Company, and this whole idea of wanting to help, participate, contribute to bringing Compton's brand more public and more of the artists knowing that they have support, the same kind of support that Jacob had, This is so important. And I may be assuming a little too much because I never lived in Compton. I was born in Louisiana. But the whole idea of the community supporting and cultivating creatives those of you who are multi-creative, wearing multiple hats, and all three of you are. I mean, Cle, you're doing everything. You're writing, you're a performing artist, you're stage productions, producer, all of that. How does that, of course it serves you, because when you know all the facets of the creative process, whatever the creative process that you might be in, it helps in the creative process when you're doing the work, because you're firmer, you're certainly more confident in what you're doing because you know how to connect the dots. How's that work for you, and what would you suggest to other young artists that are just beginning their careers, how that might be of value to them?
I'm gonna take the second part of the question first, because it's what Shaunté was saying is, you know, this artist wrote this song, but it might have been kind of mediocre, but she said, let me write another one. And I think for young artists, you know, get it wrong so you can get it right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do it wrong so you can do it right. Do it wrong so you can get it right. And I think our people, Black people, and especially people, you know, coming up so-called urban communities, are so afraid to get it wrong. You know what I mean? Because we kind of are hard on each other. We kind of clown each other, whatever. And like the brother said, it could even be in playing. But we, you know, I just know that young artists coming from these marginalized communities are very afraid to get it wrong. And if they try it once and it doesn't work, they throw in the towel. And I think if you can talk to youngsters getting it wrong, development, you know, the youngsters don't really know about the developing part. And so if they get it wrong or think it's bad or it's not dope.
Fail. Don't be afraid to fail, because you can just get up and try it again and learn from that.
I'm gonna go write another song, just like she said. So that's my advice to all artists, young and old, especially coming out of some of these communities. Don't take yourself so serious when you get it wrong. Laugh at yourself and write another song. You know what I mean? That part of it, you know, that's what I always try to tell brothers and sisters. And then the other part of your question, you said how does that serve me? And coming from Compton and working from Compton, what was that first part of it? I'm sorry.
You being multifaceted, you being so adept in learning all aspects, or at least a lot of aspects of your craft.
Yep. And so I'm very, very fortunate, because most of the, like I said, the genre of films like Get On, and like everybody, the world's in love with the 80s and the 90s. You know what I mean? And that's my era. And I you know, I'm a self-proclaimed expert on that era. You know what I mean? I say that, I know that era. And so this is how I kind of, you know, I'm hired on a film, they might hire me as a tech advisor, but before you know I'm producing it, you know, I kind of transfer to the front of the pack on most of these films, because we're talking about the 80s, we're talking about the 90s, you know what I mean? Straight Outta Compton was this total 90s film. And I said, when we're doing Straight Outta Compton, you know, the era is the star. The streets of Compton, the community is the star, and you stick the actors in that era. If you can make that era be believable, and it transcends to your actors, and they come up with some amazing performances. So I'm always like, let's set the realness around some of the talent and let the magic happen. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my approach to it. It's always like, you know what I mean? Like I'm producing it. I might be an actor in the film. And now they need some advice on the authentic, you know, to make the wardrobe authentic or cars authentic. I might just be an actor, and I was like, you know what? That's kind of wrong. You guys maybe should do it. And then they said, well, go ahead and produce it for us, and you're going to be in it. So that's kind of how my transition works in the film. It's very unique. I'm in a very, very unique space when it comes to.
You know what that says, Cle, is that, and I learned this a while back, that what we know, what we just organically know, the experiences we've had all along, the life experiences that we've had all along, it's fodder for the creative process. We can use it, and it has a value, and it has a place in the creative process, and it should never be discarded, because I meet a Yeah, I'd say a lot of people that think that they are diminished, that they don't have what it takes, and they're waiting.
Yeah.
They're waiting. And what they end up doing is waiting, which is not such a good idea. One must move forward and use what you have and learn as you go along. Write another song. That's the that's the mantra. Write another song. Jacob, how about you?
It's interesting. When I started getting into the industry, I was willing to do any job I could get. Background acting, background singing. Oh, I'll be a PA. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Even after doing Idol, I did the same thing. And even when you talk about songwriting, so I've been songwriting since I was like 17 or 18, and I would go to like the poetry lounge and just sing my songs a cappella, right? I didn't get any major placements, and it's been 10 or 15 years I've been in the music industry. Well, in the last 2 years, I've done music for Prada, I've done music for Gucci. My song is on some new show, 9 Perfect Strangers. So, but this was birthed out of making mistakes, making not so good songs, and honestly, just being willing to just do whatever I could in the field that I love. And I think a lot of times when things get hard, we often lose the passion and the love for it because of how difficult it is, because we're worried about paying the bills, because we're worried about doing certain things. But I think if you keep the love and you're willing and open to do, at least in my case, that's a work for me. So I've been able to act and do plays and do movie and do film and do commercials. And like, I've worked with some of the most incredible people just from saying yes. I said yes, and I worked with Loretta Devine and Lucy Arnaz. Like, never thought I would work with her. So it's just,
nice.
just from, and this is outside of Idol. This is just, you know, and I'll even share, just to be transparent, after Idol, it was rough. I had a few different record deals that came and went, and you might have saw me on the bus a time or two in between. You know, things are great now, but I don't think people always discuss how it's not always a mountaintop. You might get up there and
That's a part that we should talk about, because their success, however that might be defined, and we probably all got a general definition of success, being able to make a living is a great success, really. Just being able to make a living at craft. But success itself is a result. It's usually a result of a lot of hard work, a lot of downtime. The red carpet is a result, and it comes at the end of the job. And those who come into the industry, whatever part of the artistic creative industry, need to understand that this is hard work. It's all very, very hard work. It means you must get up early and go to bed late. And it all usually means that there is no fanfare in between. It's doing your homework. That's what the in-between is. It's knowing what it takes and paying attention to the details so that there are no shortcuts. A voice, a singing voice, yes, there are gifted artists, but those gifted artists have to develop themselves. They have to prove and have the stamina so that they can do what they need to do when they need to do it. The same with the performing artists. I've taught for a long time, and I have people that come to me and say, well, I can do that. I can walk and talk and be an actor and not bump into the furniture, until they try it. And then they start to understand what it really takes. It is a craft. It is a process that one must go through, and there are no shortcuts. Anyway, this is important for young people who are just entering into the arts to get right in their heads. It's work. It's hard work. And, you know, usually nothing is given. So what Cle is saying, what Jacob is saying, and I'm sure what Shaunté will say about being skilled and finding a way to understand how all the nuts and bolts work, because this will serve you. Shaunté, go ahead about being multifaceted.
I will absolutely agree with that, and I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I would say has served me the most is having multiple skills. And I think I think I'm in academia. That has obviously served me well and has allowed me to do multiple things. That's allowed me to keep working in the industry, but has also allowed me to pay the bills. And that has served me well. And honestly, and that's why I've mentioned, you know, my career in speech, because that has kept me in academia. Having an MFA in acting, this industry in Southern California is flooded with people with MFAs in acting. There's tons of us. So even finding a tenure track position in MFA with an MFA in acting has been extremely difficult because there's a billion of us. But the fact that I am a speech person, right, that I do competitive speech and debate has kept me with working. That has kept me with a job. And so that has allowed me, even diversifying in that area has done quite a bit for me. So that has helped me and served me well. So, you know, it is important to do many things and to diversify what you do. It is very, very important. And just because you're an actor doesn't mean you can be a good speaker. It does not make you a good speaker just because you're an actor. So diversifying your skills, being multi-talented, learning how to do many things, it serves you well. So I think we can all say that it is very important. So we are all saying the same thing. Learn more than one thing, right?
Yes.
Be good at multiple things. Yeah.
You know, I spent a little time traveling. I was fortunate enough to do some work in Japan, and I was there long enough to start to understand about the culture of Japan. Not to understand it, because these brothers and sisters got 5,000 years, right? They got that kind of history. This country's got about 300 or 400, right? And what I learned there, or started to learn about that culture, was the idea of respect, and that everything to most people there is an art form. And I mean everything. How they get out of bed in the morning, how they cross the room, how they make the tea or the coffee, how they greet you, the card ceremony. If you're doing business, you'll have a card and you put both fingertips on it and you present it and you bow. And it starts there with the bow, which says respect. I respect you. I consider you. I see you. All of that. And it was really a life lesson because, you know, most of what we hear so often, a lot about a place like Japan is, you know, martial arts and, you know, all of that from movies and television, martial arts and kung fu, et cetera, et cetera. But when you start to learn about the culture, the same person that does martial arts, judo, or one of those martial arts is the same person that does flower arranging or the tea ceremony or calligraphy. And it is an art form to approach life as an art form. And it was quite a lesson because I don't think this culture really leans that way, teaches that. In fact, I don't believe they do. I don't believe Western culture thinks that way. And because the art form, what we do is a soulful thing. It's really something that is transformative. It's really something that puts us in an ephemeral place that we can transcend the usual values of a Western civilization. And, you know, it may sound highfalutin or something, but it's an important thing. It's really an important thing how one approaches life. And being an artist, becoming an artist, we start to understand what's really valuable, what really we should try to attain in our just our values. And it's not stuff, it's not money. That's all a result anyway, you know, of doing the work. You do the work, and sooner or later that will come. That's going to come, you know. You may not be a zillionaire, but if one can make a living, that's, like I said, that's quite an accomplishment in these crafts that we are. So listen, okay. I thought it's important. Last comments. I'll go over you, Jacob. What would your 25 words or less advice be to a young artist that is just from Compton, from inner city, from disenfranchised neighborhoods, people of color who are thinking, wanting to be an artist, but really are just beginning and they're interested? What would your 25 words or less advice be?
It's interesting. I had a long conversation with my grandmother. She's on the album of our EP, and I asked her for a quote. And she gave me this long dissertation about not feeling sorry for yourself. And then she said, there is no mountain too high to climb. And that would be what I would say. There's no mountain too high to climb. You just got to keep going and keep trying and don't stop. And make sure your heart is in the right place. Make sure you really love it. Make sure it's really who and what you are. And if it is, then just don't stop. That's the best advice I can give. And practice. Take classes and practice, but don't stop.
It ceases to be work if you have a passion and love it. It ceases to be work, doesn't it? It ends up being, I'm going to have some fun. Shaunté.
I would say, I think we have this idea that somebody out there created art and we have to learn it. Art is around you. It was not created by the Europeans. It was not created by somebody else. Art is in your community. It is in your family. It is in your neighbors. It is around you. See the art that is there around you. Absorb it, love it, feel it, and do it. Create it every day. Always do it.
Amen. Amen. Cle, how do you feel?
You know, from a spiritual standpoint, I truly believe that God put every human being here to create, not necessarily get rich, not necessarily get on TV, but create something. You know what I mean? Some people make furniture. Some people, you know, are window glazers. Some people, and they're good at it. It's an art to every job in the world or in humanity. You know what I mean? And I would say, you know, the front of the camera is kind of limited, but behind the camera, 1,000 jobs, right? You could be an art director, you know, construction, electrician. I tell her, you said, well, I can't act. Well, you can go be an electrician, landscaping. I mean, there's so many jobs behind the camera. You know what I mean? That which is artistic, which supports that everything you see. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like about filmmaking, the behind the scenes puzzle piecing together. You know what I mean? To me, that's the process I love. Yeah. You know, some films I've done, I don't even see them until later on. But I was so into the process, it comes out, I skip the red carpet and go on to the next. You know what I mean? Because it's about the process. So even as a singer, you know, you got jobs that are based to support the singer, but there's an audio man, there's a board engineer, there's a video playback. Like all these jobs are artistic, which support a bigger art form. So I like, 300 people touching the same piece of art, and then we see it. So I would say to youngsters, you see people on TV, that's 1 or 2 people, but for every person you see on television, there's 300 behind that's doing something artistic that you can make a living off of. You know what I mean? Like I said, electrician, construction, grips, all that. That's the part I'm into it. And I recruit a lot of guys off the streets to become grips, to become electricians. I probably got like 8 grips, 10 electricians, and you know what I mean? And so a lot of them won't even dream of getting in front of the camera, but they will do their best and give it all they got behind the camera artistically to support the bigger art form. That's what I would say. Like, the jobs are multiple, right? Singing and yeah.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you all. Thank you. This has been good. This has been very valuable to, I think, young people that are thinking about doing this and trying to get some kind of real sense of what it really takes to do this. Because a lot of people have notions, and there may not be the right notion sometimes. The real notion is that this is work. And if one has your passion for it, like Jacob said, if you have a passion and a love for it, you cannot go wrong. To make a lifestyle out of this, based in love and in wanting to contribute to it, as you say, Cle, a bigger picture, and educate, you can't go wrong. I think we're about to run out of time. I see there's a lot of questions, right, Rosalind?
Yes, we're going to take some questions now. But first, as representative of Sepia and Cake Cutter, I'd like to ask our Compton actors a question, which we ask every panelist for every Reading the City in some fashion or form. What would you imagine, knowing really intimately and firsthand how much talent is in Compton? It's really hard to describe for others because on its face, no one can really tell, aside from hip hop. But knowing, intimately how much talent exists here and how many people are expressive, creative people, what future would you imagine for the city? And is there one thing that you can think of that we need to get to that future that you imagine for Compton? Is there one immediate change that could be made in the city that could get us there?
To get us to where, Rosalind? To get us to what specific place?
To the future, to a future that they imagine for Compton as an art city.
I would say it starts in education. I went to a lot of different schools. I actually was at a school a couple years ago. I think I was at Milliken High School in Long Beach. They have classes where they are teaching tech. They're teaching grip. They're teaching lights. They're teaching, they have classes for that, not just for acting, not just for, and the reality is Compton is a lot different than when I was a kid, and I'm sure when the other panelists were a kid. So it's not as many middle-aged families. It's not as all of my grandmother's neighbors, they were still married and they had their kids. My grandmother's a widow. I didn't grow up that way, and things are changing. But I think if those opportunities were presented in education and there were paths outside of that, right? So you do it in high school, and now when you graduate, there's someone here telling you, hey, bro, I got a job over here for you. I have a path for you and maybe it won't be in front of the camera. Maybe it won't be a star, but it'll be education. It'll be this, it'll be that. If those opportunities were present in the educational system in a very aggressive way, I think you would see it because they're not being poured into. So who's pouring into them? And everyone doesn't have the fortitude to fight through all of that to get there. So
I would agree with that. There's a lot of, connection programs that are offered in places like East LA. Even when we're looking at colleges, Compton College doesn't offer nearly as many programs, even at like East LA College offers. Even our high schools that don't offer those kind of similar programs that he's referring to. So, we're seeing that education isn't being offered on the same level. I think other things that we're not looking at is just the diversity of Compton has changed. The ethnic makeup of Compton has changed quite a bit since we, even when I was, a kid growing up, we're looking at a different makeup of the community. It doesn't look the same. And so we want to acknowledge that and really look at how that changes and how that really helps grow, right? How can we really utilize that to the benefit of what we can do and create with that? That is really how that has changed. Compton has grown over years, right? It changes that. And so what can we do to really bring forth unification of that? How can we grow that and really look at the art structure of that? One of my favorite artistic partners that I, work with, that I met when I was a grad student, they were an undergrad, is not an African-American person, but they were born and raised in Compton and they, love the city. They're here actually. We were actually messaging, they're here and just finished their PhD actually, and loves the city, has a huge passion for arts in the city. And so it's one of those that we have to acknowledge. How can we connect and do that and grow and utilize those connections and how we can do that. So for me, that's a big thing, is what can we do for that? Because there's a lot of resources that we can build and connect and grow that, because I think a lot of us are artists, and I specifically am speaking to the Latinx community, are developing artists and art programs in that community that we're not even building, connecting to those. I know myself specifically was not connecting. I was connecting to the African-American community and going, wait a second, I'm not looking, and I'm Latinx myself. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm not even connecting to those groups. So, how can we connect and build those programs together and create some really beautiful, connections there? That would be something I would like to see.
I think, you all disagree. I think the lack of resources in Compton has served Compton really, really well. The reason I say that, because everybody that's come out of Compton has this mentality of Compton pride, and that's Black, white. I mean, like this film I'm doing, I go back 1867, G.D. Compton, and I bring it all the way. Actually, over 100 years of Compton. So I'm talking to every genre of person who lives in Compton or who has left Compton. I've interviewed, 15, 16 white people who were part of the white flight. And even in them, there's an independence. There's a drive, a Compton drive to say, we know they hating on us. We know they don't want us to make it. And I think that psychological thing in people's head in Compton has served Compton well. You go into your Dr. Dre's, your Kendrick Lamar's, your Venus and Serena. Compton had, from 1970 to about 90, Compton had over 3,000 professional athletes. And Compton is 8.5 square miles, 9 miles at the most.
How many athletes? How many professional athletes?
Over 3,000. Over 3,000 professional athletes. And we're not even going into film, art, music, you know what I mean? And the list just goes on. It's unbelievable. So I'll have the pleasure to do the whole history of Compton. It's unbelievable, the talent that's coming out of there because of the lack of resources. Because of, we got to be even better because we got this Compton stigma on our back. And when we get into a ring, when we get into a court, when we get into film, when we sing, we do it extremely over the top, better than everybody, which the world cannot shift away from Compton because of the pool of talent that's coming out of this little bitty place that's been stigmatized, and I'll say sabotaged. Your first black political format structure came out of Compton. Who was the first black mayor of a big city? It wasn't Tom Bradley, it was Douglas Dollarhide, 1968. You see what I'm saying? So people don't know that, but the source And so me and Dr. Dre asked him, man, what's in the soil of Compton that's producing these extraordinary people? And we get into the attitude, and we get into the lack of resources, and the drive in me, I'm from Compton, so I got to be even better. And I think that has been serving Compton tremendously. Like the whole pop culture follows Compton. There's no doubt about it. And that's positive and negative. You know what I mean? That's no doubt about it. And there's a reason for that. And I believe the attitude of people who's coming out of Compton, the drive, and the willingness to get in front of their community to show people I'm from Compton and I'm not like you think I am, but here I am. I think that's why Compton is great, you know, for me. So I'm not really concerned about the resources lack of in Compton, because I know what comes out of sometimes the lack of resources, so much beautiful stuff come out of that stuff, you know what I mean? And so, you know, we got this whole new wave of Blackness, and I'm, you know, we got more filmmakers coming out with more films. So everybody's scrambling to not to look so white right now, or not to seem so white right now, that it even concerns me, because now they're just going to try to throw anything black on the wall and see if it sticks. And I'm more concerned with quality than quantity. So a lot of times I'm kind of motivated by them hating on us of a lack of resources we got. And I believe that has served Compton tremendously. That's just my opinion of it.
That's an interesting.
I think you're onto something. Go ahead, Rosalind. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, you know, it's an interesting way to look at it. And it kind of feeds into, I was going to ask the question, and I can still ask the question, you know, did you feel supported here? Or did you have to go outside of Compton's borders to start your career, to make a living, to do those things? But, you know, the way you frame it, Cle, and I really believe this, I believe that artists are going to, if Compton is going to be saved, artists are going to save Compton.
Absolutely.
Not the other way around. So convincing, you know, Compton leadership and the powers that be, and you know, community and everybody else who needs community doesn't need to be convinced, but to support the arts is really convincing them to save the city and anchor the communities.
You know, Rosalind, that part about saving.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to.
Well, what I mean by that, by saving, is anchoring the community. That's what I mean by that. Anchoring the community, I should say, instead of saving.
Right. I don't know if Compton needs to be saved, because like Cle said, and like Shaunté and Jacob, look what's coming out of here. It's not a lot of fanfare. And we're talking about the industry, the film and television industry, and to some extent the theater industry. But it's mostly about the film and television industry, because those are, and because theater is almost a stepchild of television and film here in Compton, you know. But those industries thrive on the quote stardom factor and putting people up in lights. And as Cle was saying, those 300 people behind that one or two people that end up being on the marquee are also stars in as much of a right as those people on. Because we all know there's no such thing as a one-person show. I've done 4 of them, and boy, do I know that there is no such thing as a one-person show. You have a support group, a creative team around you that props you up all the way down the line. And if you don't have it, you're not going to do well. You're simply not going to do well. You know, that's just a factor. Now, the whole idea of again, about value, I think we really have to be careful in what we define as valuable. It's very shaky, I think, what a lot of people call value, define as value, especially in the industry. The whole idea of stardom. What is that? Again, I'll say what I said a little while ago. That's a result. That's a result of an awful lot of work. An awful lot of work. I see people who get off the bus every day that get off the bus every day from wherever they come from. They got their $5,000 in their pocket that they saved up to come to Los Angeles to try to build a career, chisel out a career, do something, this and that, and they find out within 2 or 3 months that's gone. And now what do I do? Because they haven't even been able to find representation if they're a performing artist. They have not been able to find someone who believes in them. Many of them, because of their value system, become casualties. And they are gifted people. I'm talking about people with talent that were perhaps a big fish in a little pond, but they had some modicum of talent. And they come and they find out, oh, there are a lot of talented people around here. They got off the same bus. And some were here since last year and all of that. So finding a way to sustain and to find out what really matters, what really is valuable to oneself, because it's very personal. It's very personal. What's valuable to me may not be valuable to someone else, but to find that and to believe in that and to go after that and let that be your guide as to what you believe success will be.
Right. I mean, you know, for me, the value, and that's the key word, you know, value comes with maturity. You start valuing different things. You start off trying to get a check, and then as you might have spent some time in this rat race of the film, you know, you might you might find more happiness in the process of chasing your career because you become better at it. You know, you're writing more songs, you're auditioning over and over and over. Now you're really honing your craft and you ain't made a dollar yet. And then for some people that becomes their thing, which is nothing wrong with that. But you know, I tell everybody, keep it real. For me, I see what I see, my experience and other people's 80% failure before you see any progress. 80% failure before that 20% of progress comes in. And that's insane to go that long without a check. That's just insane. People are like, what? Like, yeah, you might have to keep doing this maybe 5 more years. And right when you're ready to give up, that's when the phone rings. That's when the phone rings. It always does, you know what I mean? And I tell people, just keep going, you know, and sometimes you get lost in the journey, which is a good loss. Because now you're just auditioning, you're singing, you're making good music, you're writing some of the best poetry you ever written, and nobody's seeing it. And then right when you're ready to set it to the side, all of a sudden, somebody says, man, you got anything? You be like, do I? And there it is. I mean, so I'll say 80% failure to get to that 20% of success, which is crazy. So you want to live your life like that. But
see, that's where I want it. See, that's where, and I agree with you, but see, that's where I talk about resources matter. Because I agree with you, that drive, that determination to push, I think that's important. And I think that's why people make it. But what matters to me though, is because that could mean the difference between somebody giving up and somebody going. Because what we talk about are the resources that our, for lack of a better word, our white counterparts have in other cities, that they have the luxury of having those resources until that 20% kicks in, that we don't have. Because if I am able to give students who have the luxury of learning how to do other things that can facilitate them in the same industry, if you can learn how to do something and understand that this business has so many other things to sustain you while you are waiting on being an actor, there's so many other things to do. And you don't know, you might love some of those other things that can pay you better than being an actor. And because nobody ever taught you those other things, because you were not given those resources, because your school didn't have them, those are the resources I'm referring to. Because you were not taught that the only thing you can be is a professional athlete. You weren't told that the other things that you can do in professional sports, that can sustain you when you can no longer be a professional athlete, because the life of a professional athlete is this long, or you can't be an actor. Those are the resources I'm talking about providing for my students. Those are the resources I want to give people, because that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying don't give that drive. That drive is important. And I think that's innate in so many of us. But that's the stuff that if you have that, that's what's going to keep you going and keep you from quitting while you're waiting on that 20% to kick in. Because that is going to keep you from starving. Because I don't want you to starve, my friend. And that's the resources I talk about giving my students. That's why, as an educator, those are the resources I give students. Those are the resources I fight for students to have when I look at why do we not have those resources in schools? Because I don't want you to get rid of that drive. The drive's important, but I want you to have that resource. I want you to know how to be a grip. I want you to know how to do tech. I want you to know how to do all these things, because those are going to pay your bills. And if you want to be an actor, I'm going to teach you how to do it. But while you waiting on that stuff, while you on that set, you could be doing that stuff. And when somebody asks you, oh, you got some stuff? Oh, I got it. Here you go. I've been training and doing my craft, but the whole time I've been working and not starving. Those are the resources I want you to have, because I don't have the same as my white counterparts. That's the resources I'm talking about, because I don't want people starving waiting for that. That's what I mean when I talk about resources that we are not given, that our counterparts in other neighborhoods are given. So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Right. But those are the resources that our students are not given, that because they're not taught that, right? They're given like, oh, I see that person being successful. That's what they see. And they're like, I can be that. But they are not taught the laundry list of other things that they can do to keep them from starving while they're trying to do that one thing. And then they realize, oh, wait, I can do that. And that pays me more money than that thing. Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay. That's what we're not teaching our kids. And that's what I want them to have.
Yeah, I think that you guys answered two questions that are in our Q&A already from Delson Kane. I think he's a young actor, or she, Delson. How long would it usually take to break into this industry? And any advice to young actors ready to give up? You guys actually answered that quite beautifully.
Trying. I looked in the Q&A. I was trying to help.
Oh, she cheated. She looked in the Q&A.
You know, one of
Sorry, I was trying to help out.
the other things is that you must be a self-starter. You must be a self-starter. You cannot wait for anyone to give you anything, or even, I'm on shaky ground here, but even to inspire you. If you believe it, if you love it, if you have a passion for it, you have to start yourself, because everyone is doing their work. And so there are some people that you can collaborate with, yes, and you find those along the way, but you really have to have the innate property of being someone who is a self-starter. You want this and you find a way. You find a way. I don't know what the way is for everybody. I wish I had that kind of pat answer. There is no pat answer. My path is different from your path, but you have to find that path and find a way to navigate it.
Well, I would suggest that Delson seek out the Robey Theater Company.
Absolutely. 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 You know, we have the Playwrights Lab is about to start on the 18th, which is a nuts and bolts dramatizing for the stage. That is a 10-week session. We do 3 of those a year, Saturday mornings from 10 to 1 o'clock. And we have a wonderful dramaturg doing that, Daphne.
Been sorry to interrupt, but we are at 6:30. We're going to keep taking questions for a little while. Welcome everyone to stay on. I don't think we've ever done a Reading the City where we didn't go over time, but stay with us. Our next question is from Kathleen Blackistone. Let's see, she has 2. So how large is your capacity as an artist to interrogate or challenge stereotypes as Black people, as Compton residents, as targets of structural racism?
What is our capacity?
Well, I'm gonna assume she means, have you ever in your career, I mean, Ben, you could go on forever, but our three panelists, how have you in your career challenged stereotypes?
I think that's a great question, and I appreciate that question, I really do, because that's what it's about for me, challenging the white supremacist narrative. And when films come my way, if I don't see this script is exposing something or teaching something powerful, whatever, I pass on it because it's not revealing anything. So the man just sitting right here and people, they go crazy, like there's nothing there. It's gonna move my people forward or the conversation forward. So Compton Finest, I've been shooting it for 4 years, and this film is strictly to counter the white supremacist narrative about Black leadership in America. That's what this film is about. And what I'll show you through this 100 years of Compton, how much political talent, everything that's coming out of this place to smash the stereotype of white supremacy. Compton has been sabotaged. And that's what this film is going to show you that. This film is going to show you the smoking gun of how they sabotaged Compton. And that's why I talked about Douglas Dollarhide, 1968, the first Black mayor of a city west of Mississippi this big. The first female Black mayor, Compton, 1972, Doris Davis. The first fire chief, the first police chief, first Black police chief, Tom Cochet, 1970. So Compton had a spotlight on it that no other city had because of the Black leadership that was coming out of this city. When I was a kid coming up, my mom used to play a song, they talked about a chocolate city. But Compton truly was that chocolate city. The first city attorney, your first female Black mayor, your first Black mayor, it goes on, and the first fire chief, it goes on and on and on. And this was made the United States government, FBI, and everybody else saying, whoa, if this city is successful, then there are gonna be more Black cities popping up all over America. And my film, my recent research that we've been doing for 4 years, every day on this thing, has showed us the sabotage of Compton. So the question is right. As artists, we have to give pushback to this white supremacy narrative when it comes to Compton. You know what I mean? And I take that personally. I'm personally in this fight to combat that. And so yes, as artists, we should always try to. And a lot of times, and what happens with the Compton talent, this crazy, beautiful talent gets snatched from us. They're somewhere else, they're there for that, and then Compton becomes Compton. And the more successful you are out of Compton, the more they want you out of Compton. They don't want you coming back. So that was a great question. My whole film existence is to push back against the white supremacist narrative of Compton.
I can't wait to check out the film, I'll say that. It sounds amazing. I would say it's a couple, to answer the question in my head, there's a few things. I think preparation. So what people don't know is I've done classical music, I do jazz. In acting, I'm not just studying, I'm studying Shakespeare, I'm taking classes. And if we're speaking specifically to acting, your agent being bold enough to submit you for roles that may not say a Black person. I've been submitted for several roles that did not ask for a Black person, and I booked them. So it's just really being prepared and also being professional and making sure that you are dismantling the stereotypes that people say, making sure that you're on time, making sure that you know your lines, making like any set I'm on, and he said this before, maybe it's a Compton thing, I'm 10 times better than everybody. Now, I'm not saying I am 10 times better than everybody, but I strive to be 10 times better than everybody. Now, I'm not always on time for something, but
you are 10 times better.
So that and really working with your agent to make sure that they are and you're clear with them, like, hey, I would like to do different things, and so that they submit you for those things. I went to New York to audition for Porgy and Bess several years ago, but while I was there, they submitted me for Les Miserables. They submitted me for different shows. So that did not call for a Black actor. And so, and even though I may not have gotten some of those roles, what now happens is these powerful casting directors and producers now seeing me, and they know that I can do different things. And now when they see me again, they know I can do it, or they may even call me for those roles. So that's just my thoughts.
And can I chime in? And that's what I meant by sometimes audition just to audition. And you going for one role, but somebody else sees something else in you. And that's my point. Like, the journey of the process becomes the magic. You know what I mean? You auditioning just to audition, but you were so good at it. You know, we can't hire you for that, but we're gonna hire you for this. That you just made my point for me, brother. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Jacob. You hit the nail on the head, and I would say that as an actress, over the years, like having that conversation with my agent, getting an agent that supports you in all of that is so important, to have an agent that's on the same page as you. And that in itself is a luxury, right? I think starting out in the industry, just getting an agent is tough. So I have to acknowledge that in itself is a luxury, to say that you have an agent, one, and two, to have an agent that supports what your goals are is hard. So we know that that's a luxury. So I don't want to be like, get an agent that supports you. We know that's a luxury, to have had an agent to support you, and have an agent that I can say, to go, hey, I want to do this. And she said, my agent to say, okay, Shaunté, I support you in that. That's a luxury that we both have that, right? But I think that is tough to have that conversation and say, I want that. I will say at this point, what I support at this point where I'm at as an educator, as a person who is where I'm at, is I'm on the level where I am redrawing what we teach and how we teach students in academia, and how we educate, how we train actors, right? Because as Jacob said, we learn everything, right? So the idea is, as actors of color, we have to learn Shakespeare. We have to learn, we have to learn Tom Stoppard. We have to learn all of these sort of like European acting methods. And that's the standard, right? So you cannot be a respectable actor unless you have learned all of these, right? You have to learn Stanislavski, you have to learn all of these things. And the idea is that the Greeks and the Europeans came up with the acting methods. Says who?
No.
They created acting? Really? They created acting? Really? Are you really? Really? You created acting? And why is it that I, as an actress of color, I am African American and Puerto Rican, and I will tell you that as a professional actress, I have yet to have. I mean, rarely am I cast. Most of the things that I get cast for, if you see the breakdowns, it's ethnically ambiguous is usually what I get cast for these days. That's usually what it says, ethnically ambiguous, and I'm like, okay. Or multiracial is usually what the breakdowns say for me these days. My age is like ethnically ambiguous. And so if that's the case, or Latin, I get Latinx awesome. If that's the case, why is my acting training program not training me for that? Mm-hmm. Why have I been trained to play these extremely meaty roles on the stage, but nobody has trained me how to play my Thea down the street? That's not in my training program. That's not. And when I watch these beautiful actors on stage, that they have not been trained to play the character that I am cast as the majority of the time when I'm cast. So why is that not a part of a training program? And that is what we are working on. And I'm working with the Kennedy Center and with all of these great, wonderful people who are training actors across the country about this, because that is what I have issue with. And that is why why I love it. This is why I entered actor training. This is why I became an educator, because that is what I take issue with. Because why is that the gold standard? I understand. I know how to play Shakespeare. I have an MFA in acting. I learned all the things, right? But why is that the standard? And that is where I have an issue with structural racism, because it has to do with actor training. That is what we are teaching our students to do. We are teaching them that is what makes you a reputable actor. That you have to know that is the gold standard. Absolutely. I know how to play Shakespeare. Absolutely. I know how to do these things, but I have yet to be cast that. That is not how I've made my money as an actor. 90% of the money I have made has not been playing that. And I think that most of us here can tell you that we have not made the majority of our money in professional, in film at least, doing that. So that is what I look at. And so that is where I break that structural racism down. I'm telling my own stories. I'm teaching my students to tell their own stories. We're training them in the professional way that we need to, but I'm telling my own stories. I'm teaching them to tell their own stories. And we're looking at how to train them to play the characters in their own communities. We're teaching them how to look at the world around them, to see the art in their own communities, which is exactly what I said. Look at the art that is existing in the world around you. The art that is right there next to you. That is art. It is beautiful. It is in your own communities, right there. The art that you have been looking at your whole lives. That's art. You're creating that. You've been creating it your whole lives. It is art. It is valid. Tell that story. Let's create it. Let's make it. Let's provide the validity for it and make money off it. That's art. Let's do it. That's how we break down structural racism, because Tyler Perry proved that that's a market.
The Black aesthetic.
Yes.
So our last question is from
You froze up, Rosalind. You froze up. That's poetic, isn't it? The last question froze up. There you are. You're back.
It's from Judge Kelvin Filer. Yeah. Shout out to Judge Filer. And I believe it's one directed at Sepia Collective. And I know, Cle, you can answer this question as well. And so it's going to be you and me, Ben. You wrote the Robey Theater Company is our fiscal agent. Are you seeking or receiving support from the city of Compton to acquire funding and or space accommodations to provide a permanent avenue of carrying out your message? It is certainly worthy of support and would only help to spread a positive image of the Compton community. So I would say, Judge Filer, yes, yes, we are. Our funding, we seek funding and support more from county, state, and federal entities than we do from, city. And, for many reasons, but the city is not set up for that at all. And it's one of the issues that we've been talking about, today.
There's no arts program for the city, right?
There's no arts program. There's no arts department. There's no arts commission. There's no, there's none of those things. I don't know, Cle, have you had this experience at all with any of your?
From having support from Compton?
Yeah, financial support from Compton. Oh, and he did mention space as well, because Sepia right now is looking for space in the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, financially, haven't received any help from Compton. Like Ben said, you got to kind of be self-made into it. You got to take that first step. So I've always taken the first step. I always start shooting films myself, cutting myself, and then I go and somebody sees what I'm doing, and then they kind of come in with the money. But in my case, I was very, very fortunate. Dr. Dre, my executive producer, and this is how we were able to make this film. You know what I mean? So for me, I always take a independent route, some type of weird route. I end up doing these films about our community. You know what I mean? So as far as creating a space, like I said, there's so many films coming to Compton. So many people want to shoot in Compton, videos, films, commercials, it goes on. The space is kind of being created within Compton because everybody has their antennas up. People know Compton is on the map of wanting to shoot there or wanting to be involved with that city or want to know about that city. They got tours that's going through Compton, you know what I mean? So for me, financially, no, but the moral support, I've got the support from the city council, Mayor Asia Brown when she was mayor. They all know this journey I'm on, and they all have helped me with this journey by filling in the pieces of the puzzle of information maybe I did not have. Now, Calvin Filer, I must talk about Cal Filer. Like, when I talk about Compton and the influence of Compton to the world, Calvin Filer, Judge Calvin Filer, who born and raised in Compton, all his siblings are lawyers. He was one of the youngest lawyers in Compton, 26-year-old, who influenced the world. Just give me a second on this. He influenced the world. Why? Because Calvin Filer was a kid that grew up in Compton, became a lawyer. Some of his friends started getting in trouble. He's representing them, but when he's representing some of his friends in court, the way they looked with chains on and stripes, they looked guilty. So Calvin Filer challenged the Supreme Court at 26-year-old on the garb of innocence law. Go look that up. The garb of innocent law. What Calvin Filer won, the Supreme Court changed, and now the whole world started from America. If you ever get in trouble, hopefully you don't, you can go and wear your own clothes because you're innocent until proven guilty. So if it wasn't for Calvin Filer out of Compton, that law wouldn't even be in place. And that law has spread it all around the world. This is what I'm talking about. Calvin Filer has happened to be in my film. Thank you so much. And he's one of the smartest judges in Southern California, one of the most respected judges in Southern California. But as a 26-year-old Compton lawyer, he changed the definition of the garb of innocence. And we owe him a lot. You know what I mean? Now, if you never get in trouble, that's great. And you never get prosecuted, that's great. But as we know, we're talking about the systematic racism and how they do in our community and locking us up. That is one of the most important laws that's ever happened. You know what I mean? And Johnny Cochran used Calvin Filer's precedents to bring OJ out in his own clothes. He quoted Calvin Filer in that OJ trial, and that came out of Compton Courthouse. So this is my passion, to try to show everybody a lot of the stuff we're doing. If it wasn't for Compton, half the stuff around the world wouldn't even be here. I want to tell you something else came out of Compton. Your first AK-47 assault rifle ban, that came from Calvin Filer, and that was the first piece of legislation ever put in the world. That came out of Compton, Calvin Filer, and the rest of these people. You know what I mean? So some of this first times, now everybody's talking about ban on assault rifles. Where did it happen first? Compton Courthouse. They were the first ones speaking the language of, hey man, these guns are not for hunting humans. They're not hunting. You're doing them with killing human beings with these AK-47s and these assault rifles. And Compton Courthouse was the first ones to take on the NRA in America. It was Compton Courthouse. And Calvin Filer, we owe them a lot for the assault rifle ban and the garb of innocence. I tell everybody, go look up the garb of innocence and see how we got to wear your own clothes until you're proven guilty. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant. But when you said Calvin Filer, that's one of my heroes.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad.
Thank you. Yeah.
The assault weapons ban. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. That's a lot of people don't know, and Compton people don't even know what they're sitting on. You know what I mean? We know bits and pieces, but if you ever, and just the real pride comes in Compton when we connect from age with Z about Compton, you become arrogant to the rest of the world because we know if it wasn't for Compton, a lot of this stuff would not be in place. And I mean that seriously.
You know something else I found out? I was at CAM, and Robert Johnson was being interviewed and speaking. And shout out to Robert Johnson. And
Johnson's in my film also.
Yeah, and he had you had given him a clip of Compton's Finest. And so I learned that day how fertile Compton soil is. I didn't know that.
Don't even get me started on Compton soil. And the real Compton was famous because it was G.D. Compton was an agricultural celebrity because he showed up to the World's Fair with a 450-pound pumpkin that he got out of Compton, and he became an agricultural celebrity. And this put Compton on the map for agriculture. You know what I mean? And that's G.D. Compton became a famous American because all the 400-pound squashes, 200-pound watermelons that he was getting out of the soil of Compton. And that's a whole nother story. So yeah, like now you're getting me going. Now I'm getting excited because we're getting into the history of Compton.
Pomegranates, lemons, mangoes, we got it all. I'm hungry. No. Well, I mean, man, everybody, we could go on. We could go. Oh, I think we just got another question. Hold 1 second.
Let me take a minute to shout out to C. Julian White, a director out of Long Beach who's worked with the Robey Theater Company. I see questions here or statements here by C. Julian. How you doing, man? Wonderful director.
Oh, thank you for joining us. Robert Johnson asked a question. He said, "How important? Why is it important to tell our own stories and define us? Why do we need to define us? Why is it important to tell our own stories?"
Because no one else gets it as right as we do.
Yeah.
It's really, and we are the ones that have the sensibility to tell our stories from a point of view of nuance that no one else can do that.
Yeah.
W.E.B. Du Bois said, "Theater by us, for us, about us, and near us." And that's what it should be. That's why we're in Compton. That's why the Robey Theater Company is in Compton, so that we can be a part and have a nearness to to our people. It's that simple. We've been complaining for decades, more than decades, about somebody else writing our stories and interpreting our lives. And no one can get it more correct than we do because we live it. It's just part of us. That's the short answer.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. I think that's it, everyone. Unless anyone else has anything that they'd like to ask. Oh, I see another question. Sorry. They keep popping up.
I thought there were about 87. I saw like 87 questions down in that chat. There's a lot of questions.
Oh, okay. This question is from, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Baja Lin. Will the Zoom, oh, is that correct? Will these Zoom meetings for Compton, will there be more in the future? Yes, there will be more in the future. This is our fourth Reading the City. So we started off with poetry, and then visual arts, then public art, murals, and our next one will be, we have this one about actors, and our next one will be hip hop.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody. I am asking our admin right now if can you hear me?
Yes.
Can everyone hear me? Everything froze for a second.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, I'm asking our admin right now if she can play a little something of Ben's to play us out today. I want to thank
Let me
Cle
just
Sloan.
things, Rosalind. It's important. I think one. Yeah, I'm not sure if a donation mechanism is in place for the Compton Arts Project or for Sepia or for Cake Cutter, but those who are listening, support this. This is exactly what we're talking about funding. Individual support from each one of you to Cake Cutters, Sepia, or the Robey Theater Company for that matter, is all important. Our constituency needs to show that they value us. And so please consider that. Go to the websites and take a look. There's mechanisms there to do it. Please come on September 5th to see and hear a heated discussion, the next reading of a commissioned play by Levy Lee Simon, and I directed it for the Robey Theater Company. And if you go to the robeytheatercompany.org, all the information is there on how to access that. But more than anything else, support. Support. We need it. We need it.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for saying that. So, Cle Sloan, Jacob Lusk, Shaunté Caraballo, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to ask, there's another question that popped up in the thing. Oh, man. Have you considered tourism to fund the arts? We'll get there. We're certainly not there yet. There's some steps in between that we have to take for sure. Hopefully, Jackie, can you play Ben's commercial on the way out? I'd like to share his most recent work with you, which actually made me cry the first time I saw it. I'm just gonna say.
No, he's not in his room. Why didn't you answer your phone?
Your mother loved this park.
I know. She did.
Brilliant, all of you. Thank you again, and to you, Ben. Thank you for hosting and asking all these questions. Our appreciation for you is immense, as is our pride in claiming you as our own. Everybody be safe out there and take good care, and we'll see you at the next Reading the City.